Japan, seen by the world as one of the greatest events of warfare ever known. There's many things that lead up to that huge event, and I'm here to justify that action. It all started when Hitler invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939. Doing so drove Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, and at that point World War II has begun. On the other end of the world, at 7:55 a.m. Hawaii time, a Japanese dive bomber bearing the red symbol of the rising sun of Japan on its wings appeared out of the clouds above the island of Oahu. I know I pronounced that wrong. A swarm of 360 Japanese warplanes followed, descending on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in a ferocious assault. Much of the Pacific Fleet was rendered useless. 5 of 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, and 7 other ships were sunk or severely damaged, and more than 200 aircraft were destroyed. A total of 2,400 Americans were killed and 1,200 more were wounded. Many while valiantly attempting to repulse the attack. Japan's losses were some 30 planes, 5 major submarines, and fewer than 100 men. A severe attack on us. The only thing that compares on attack to us like that is 9/11. Because of that, we were forced to enter the war. As time went on, we continued to fight Japan. Several famous battles. The most famous of them all, by far, is Iwo Jima. So famous, in Kingston, they even have a little street named after it. Little Street, less than a block. After those battles, the time came that we got to Japan, and we had to come up with what we were going to do. We had a few options. 1, just plain old invasion. 2, bombing them with conventional bombing. 3, which is very, let's say, unique, back bombs. I'll go back to those. And then number 4, the atomic bombing. The invasion. The problem with invasion is that this would send in excess of 600,000 soldiers into Japan. With U.S. Army calculations, it was predicted 500,000 deaths. Any others, or most others, of those calculations went much higher, and that is just U.S. deaths alone. We were also expecting to have Great Britain help us and the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union could expect up to 1 million casualties. Then, not including the countless number of lives lost in Japan because of this invasion. Then, the classic bombing, conventional. The problem with the bombing is that for each plane that goes over Japan, there's an extremely high chance of it getting shot down. In order to do the same amount of damage that the atomic bombs did, for each bomb, you would need to drop 345 B-29 bombers worth. So 345 bombers would have to go over for each bomb, each of the atomic bombs that we dropped. That's serious time and money. That's also a lot more less life because we cannot have it on a focused point. We'll be killing much more people in a large, wider range. Now, my favorite, the bat bombs. The idea was behind the bat bombs was it was done by a dentist. understood that bats like to go into the eaves of attics. They like to hide out in the, I wish I had a visual, but the houses in Japan, the roofs hang over the edges a little bit on both sides, like a conventional house. The bats would nest in there. They would tie an explosive that causes it to catch on fire. In Japan, their houses were mostly made out of wood, very flammable and light wood. This was originally designed to destroy Tokyo, literally burning it to the ground. That was a flop though, because during testing, the base that they were making the bombs in caught on fire. The atomic bombing, to justify it, it justified the 500,000 lives that were lost in just 5 years after the bombing, not including the countless millions of lives that are now ruined because of this bombing. We did not know at the time that the radiation would last this long. It is still to this day there are dangerous high levels of very dangerous radiation. The original plan with the atomic bombs was to drop them on the coast to prevent another D-Day massacre. We made one D-Day, but we were very close to losing it. The bombing has several reasons. The most prominent was to show the world who was boss. Very unfortunate that we had to go there to do so. Also, as I mentioned before, the 300 plus B-29 bombings that it would take. That is just not possible. The bomb also provided, let's say, leverage to have the Japanese surrender and make peace with us the way that we wanted them to have peace with us. Don't get me wrong though, the second bombing was inhumane. We waited 3 days to drop the second bomb. In that time, the Emperor of Japan was more than willing to surrender at that point. We did not need the second bomb. The first bomb got its point. We were very fortunate that they did surrender after the second bomb, because that's all that there was. We only had 3 bombs. The test, the Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. If they didn't give up at that point, we had nothing left. We were also at our edge. We've been fighting the war for 4 years. And we were running out of steam, so to speak. In conclusion, the atomic bombing in Japan is the only time that we've ever seen an atomic bomb used in warfare. It is also seen as today, 67 years later, as the cruelest act on humanity the world has ever seen, other than the Holocaust. And that is why, as I've said, with the bombings, the invasion, and even the most ridiculous of them all, the bat bombs, why the atomic bombing was justified.